From Storm Team 5, your weather first.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Mahoney at Storm Team 5, and on our Local 5 live radar, there's a little bit of precipitation, mainly to the north and also to the east. And we have chilly temperatures along the lakefront, only in the 50s, low 60s inland. We should be up in the 70s. We'll talk more about that as it comes up. Variable clouds, why use that? You'll find out. 60, 45 overnight, and 70 tomorrow. That's your weather first from Storm Team 5.
Now on Local 5, the recall candidates bring in some extra help on the final days of the campaign.
An arrest is made in the bow and arrow shooting of a 7-year-old Campbellsport girl.
And charges could soon come in yesterday's fatal motorcycle crash in Fond du Lac County.
From WFRV-TV, Green Bay, Fox Cities, and the Lakeshore, this is Local 5 News at 5 in HD.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Well, we are down to the wire in the Wisconsin recall election.
And the candidates are pulling out their party's heavy hitters to help them drum up support. Your local election headquarters has all the details tonight. Mayor Tom Barrett was joined by former President Bill Clinton today in Milwaukee to help get out the vote. And Governor Scott Walker welcomed South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley on the campaign trail. She is rumored to be a possible running mate in Mitt Romney's presidential run. These big endorsements come just hours after Governor Walker and Mayor Barrett squared off in their final debate. The two battled over jobs, the John Doe investigation, and the budget. The two did agree on one thing, that there is a lot at stake come Tuesday.
I've heard for years from Democrat and Republican voters alike that people complain that politicians get into office and they don't take on the tough issues. That's exactly what we did. In fact, it's interesting for all the talk about what the recall was about initially. We don't hear a lot about that anymore. It's because our reforms are working.
I want us to get back to Wisconsin values. And I disagree with Scott. I don't think the reforms are working. You ask that 75-year-old woman who's on a fixed income, who relies on the homestead tax credit, and that was cut. Those reforms aren't working for her. They're not working for the middle class.
We had crews following both candidates today. Local 5's Brett Lemoyne was at today's rally in Milwaukee with Mayor Barrett and President Clinton. He joins us from the Fox Cities newsroom. Brett, what are people saying about the president's message?
Well, Aaron, Barrett's supporters at the rally believe Clinton's remarks will help encourage voters to head to the polls on Tuesday. I spoke with one woman who made the trip from Oshkosh. She tells me that she was energized after the rally today. The president says Barrett is the best choice for Wisconsin. He says the Milwaukee mayor is the only candidate who can make budget cuts based on shared sacrifices. He highlighted Barrett's record for creating thousands of jobs in Wisconsin. On crime, the former president dismissed recent attack ads put out by Republicans.
I'll tell you this about the crime deal. When I was president, we passed a crime bill that Tom Barrett was a leading proponent of that gave you the first 8-year period of declining crime in the history of the country.
There was one supporter of Governor Walker in the crowd who, following the speech, was forcibly removed by police. We'll show you what happened tonight at 6. Reporting live in the Fox Cities, Brett Lemoyne, Local 5 News HD.
Thank you, Brett. This morning, Governor Walker criticized today's visit from former President Clinton, trying to bring attention to the absence of the current president of the United States. During a campaign stop in Appleton, the governor said President Obama's visit to Minnesota days before the recall election is very telling.
2 years ago, when this was an open seat for governor, the president of the United States was here, and I think that's a reflection of what the president and his team think about getting involved in this campaign right now.
The governor also pointed out that the president was only minutes away from Wisconsin.
And during that Fox Cities campaign swing, the governor talked about what he has done and what Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett has not done on job creation. Local 5's Terry Kovarik with us now in the studio. He was at that event, and Terry's got more. Terry?
Well, Governor Walker came to another employer that has added jobs during his tenure, and he again said he's got the numbers and other proof his reforms are aiding job creation. Miller Electric Manufacturing has added 125 positions to its Fox Cities workforce over the past year and a half. That's why Governor Walker chose it as a location to re-emphasize the impact of his budget and regulatory reforms.
Well, since January of 2011 in the state, we've added more than 30, almost just over 35,000 new jobs in the state.
That's something the governor pointed out had not happened prior to enactment of his reforms. something that he says still isn't happening in Milwaukee.
My opponent, the mayor of Milwaukee, does not have a plan when it comes to the budget. He does not have a plan when it comes to economic development.
Governor Walker not only touted job creation successes like those here at Miller Electric, but also a survey of Northeast Wisconsin business owners about their post-recall election concerns.
I also understand why employers say that, why they say they're waiting in some cases. They like the direction we're headed. They think that's forward. They're concerned that somehow we might retract, we might go backwards from that.
The governor also pointed to a $154 million budget surplus that he says is helping add to the state's rainy day fund and boosting spending for higher education. Reporting in the studio, Terry Kovarik, Local 5 News HD.
Thanks, Terry. Now, as we said, Governor Walker also had a visit from a big name today. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley joined Governor Walker at a campaign stop. The two appeared together at the Quad Graphics plant in Sussex. Now, coming up tonight at 6, we will hear from Governor Haley on why she supports Governor Walker. And remember, for more coverage on the recall, you can tune into your local election headquarters. It's this Sunday morning when we will be talking to Professor Charles Franklin. He's the pollster, the mastermind behind that Marquette University Law School poll, and we will also be reviewing last night's gubernatorial poll.
New developments in the case of the local girl struck with an arrow. The Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Department says they have 2 suspects in this case. They've already arrested a 16-year-old boy for allegedly shooting the arrow that injured 7-year-old Ariana Schneeberg. A second teen could also face charges. Local 5's Donald Robinson has more.
They should have owned up to it right away, especially after they heard her scream.
After weeks of waiting, Michelle Schneeberg's family finally has answers to the shooting of her 7-year-old granddaughter. It's just not the answers the family was looking for.
And then I hear that these 2 teenagers were afraid to come forward because of the consequences. That's just not right.
The Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office say they believe 2 teenage boys are responsible for shooting the arrow that hit 7-year-old Ariana in the back last month. According to the Sheriff's Office, the boys claim to have been shooting at a squirrel in a tree, but accidentally hit the little girl.
We needed to get to the bottom of this so we knew whether it was, accidental, whether it was reckless, whether it was intentional.
Officials say after interviewing more than 150 people, a gut feeling led detectives back to the 2 teens.
And in that time frame of that arrow only being in the air, seconds, if you will, told us that somebody was there.
Well, for me, I would like him to come face to face to Ari and say sorry.
In Fond du Lac County, Donald Robinson, Local 5 News, HD.
Now, you'll remember a $10,000 reward was offered earlier this week for information, but sheriff's deputies say that didn't play a part in this arrest. However, they may decide to give the money to people who helped in the investigation.
Continuing coverage now of yesterday's tragic motorcycle crash. Tonight, several people remain hospitalized from yesterday's crash in rural Fond du Lac County. 3 are in critical condition. 1 is now in fair condition. The man killed in the crash has been identified as 59-year-old Daniel Winsmith of Twin Lake, Michigan. Investigators say the driver of the car, a 25-year-old Hilbert man, crossed the center line and crashed into 10 motorcycles. Investigators say the driver will be charged with homicide by negligent operation of a vehicle. Officers say the crash was one of the worst they had ever seen.
It was rather overwhelming. It was because there was so many victims and the magnitude of it, because there was people screaming for help.
And we will have more on this crash coming up at 6. We'll be talking to the doctors and the medical helicopter crews who came to the rescue yesterday. Now, this tragic crash comes just one day before the 700 motorcycle riders are going to hit the road for the annual MDA Packerland ride. Tomorrow's 70-mile ride goes from Green Bay to Shiocton and then north to Doc's Harley-Davidson near Bonduelle. Organizers definitely have safety in mind when it comes to this annual event.
We work with all the law enforcement officers along the way. We ride in a staggered position, so riders are separated so that they have a safe position between each one. As we go through intersections, we make sure we slow through intersections, but it's always controlled.
And I have the honor of once again serving as the MC for this year's ride, Local 5, a proud sponsor of the MDA Packerland Ride. Well, a bad end to the work week on Wall Street. We'll show you why the stock market took a big tumble today.
Plus, in Health Watch, some hope for the millions of people living with cerebral palsy.
With that big motorcycle ride, we want to know what the weather is going to be. There's a big low in Michigan. How will that affect us? Find out when we return.
And later, it's the ultimate event for those with a green thumb. And it's right here in our own backyard.
You're watching Local 5 News with Tom Zalaski and Aaron Davison.